Hello, hello, everyone. We're just about to start.
Hello.
And we have a very special guest. Yay!
Hello,
All right. Are we doing this?
Unmute. Oops. Hello, hello.
Hello, hello.
How are you?
Hello, Tara. Hello, Bo.
Hello.
Hi, how are you, Andre?
Hey, how are you guys? Glad to see you.
Oh, pretty good.
Great. Well, welcome to Mondays with Tara and Andre and Bo. So we're like Tab instead of T&A today.
That works.
Huh?
Or TAB.
TAB.
Oh.
Yeah.
They stopped making that, but we're bringing it back.
That's right.
All
Did they
right.
start
I don't think they make tab anymore. I don't
No, I think they ran out of rats in the lab, didn't they?
I don't know.
Oh no,
I
that's
didn't-
terrible.
I didn't touch this stuff.
What, they loved Tab on the side. After doing their work, they were just drinking the Tab. Never mind.
Oh, it's so well. I'm wondering if people are joining us. Oh, I'm seeing numbers now. So please say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're joining us from, and just that you can hear us and everything's good. Yeah.
So where are you joining us from today? I'm in Montreal. Where are you guys?
We are in sunny Florida.
We're on
Beautiful.
Sunset Beach.
Sunset Beach
The
in
sunny
Florida.
is
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you for the orange juice.
Yeah.
And hello from BC. Hey,
Oh,
John.
yay. Okay. Well, this is Mondays with Tara and Andre and now Bo. We come here live every week at 11 a.m. Eastern, sharing our hot tips on how you can have an amazing open or polyamorous relationship like ours.
Yeah,
So-
hot tips. We really do have a marvelous open relationship, don't we? Because here you are, a couple that we met, well, a beautiful woman that we met at a party, a wild swingers party, if you will, a couple of years ago, right before COVID. We made a connection, connected with her on a very deep level, stayed in touch with her, and then she introduced us to her partner, the beautiful Bo. Yay, hello, Bo.
Thank you.
And we stayed in touch, and then over time, we did a couple of online parties back in the day when we were all in lockdown, which was awesome. We met you virtually first, and then we came down to Florida to meet you. You were more lovely than we could have ever imagined. So you've been a delight to know. And now we continue the friendship. And now, Tara, you're down there visiting Bo, and Heather's in Cincinnati at the moment, but going to come see me, and I will be. So it's an international swinger swamp trade love affair. It's quite fantastic. And I have nothing but fulfillment and compersion for you. You guys were out the other day and you sent me a picture of the three of you on the street. And I was just so happy to see, Tara, that you were with people that loved you and whom I love and who you love. And it's just incredible. So how fantastic is that? I would have never imagined that we'd been able to be at this place a few years ago. It would not have been on my radar. I would not have imagined it to be possible. My issues of jealousy would not have allowed for it. And yet, because we talked about it and did all this, here we are. And wow.
And I remember feeling a little guilty, like, well, maybe we shouldn't send pictures because Andre will feel left out or whatever. But oddly enough, I was feeling a little bit left out because Andre gives the greatest hugs ever. So if I was feeling that, like, God, I really would like an Andre hug. Not that these aren't good hugs; these are great hugs. But yeah, so I was feeling a little bit like, well, should we send these pictures or not? Because I didn't want you to feel like, oh, you're missing out. But
yeah, absolutely. You can send them now. But I'm glad that you have that level of consciousness to think, where is it going to land? How will the other person receive it, right? Because very often we go into it and we think, it's not an issue. Well, it's not an issue for us, but it might be for somebody else. So it's an important point. Where do we know where we stand? So I might be okay with it, but other people might not. You might not have like getting those things. So it's really, are we wanting the same things? Are we wanting different things? And how do we know?
Ah, yes, which is today's topic. Good segue, Andre. Today's topic is, what to do when we want different things, because I think this is something that's come up a lot for us recently. I don't know about you, Andre, but I feel like a lot of people joining the group and people that I've talked to, this is a situation they're facing right now. And it can be tricky and confusing and frustrating and bring up a lot of feelings. So we'd love to know in the chat, have you been in a situation where you wanted different things than your partner or partners? And if yes, are you still in those things? And or have you gotten right through it? So that's the question of the day. So we'd love to hear your thoughts as we talk, and you can also ask questions as we go too. So yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, in fact, I opened up my emails today and I have an inquiry for somebody. She says that they've gone from being in an ethically non-monogamous relationship to now being polyamorous. But now that they're there, they're finding out that maybe they're not quite wanting the same things. And it would seem almost too fantastic that we would automatically always want exactly the same thing, even if it's water. I love water, but do I want a full glass of water or do I want half a glass of water? What about you? So where will
you want it with ice or no ice?
With lemon, with who knows? So there's a whole bunch of things. But in theory, we want the same thing, right? So how are we going to negotiate that? How are we going to find out where we can find enough overlap to make it viable for us? Or are we finding out that maybe there's still a couple of things that it's not quite where we need it to be, and how could we get there? Exactly. So we'll take a look at that.
Yeah, and I think even using some of the terms. Oh, and I think we should give a definition of compersion because sometimes people don't know what that is.
So compersion essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, but compersion is the pleasure that we receive in the knowledge of our partner's pleasure.
Yes.
So you're out with Heather and Bo in Florida having a good time. You're full of pleasure. You're having a great, wonderful time. And I feel that pleasure that you're feeling. I feel pleasure for you for having that pleasure. As opposed to, unfortunately, what more people might be at this point more familiar with is the feeling of jealousy, thinking, oh, wow, they're having fun without me and I'm not included, or it's envy, it's jealousy. Those are a little bit more familiar for many of us, but compersion is a wonderful thing when and if it should arrive for you.
Yeah.
And it comes to me by way of security, because we do have a very safe way of being. It allows me to feel that your pleasure is not in any way going to take away from my pleasure, or it's not going to be because I wasn't able to satisfy you or any of those things. That doesn't agree to it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, well, we talked about what it was going to be like down here. And we're still talking about it as we go, sort of thing. We all had a big conversation yesterday, which is why the compersion thing came up. Heather was saying she didn't know the exact definition. And when she looked it up, it said it was the opposite of jealousy, which and I think it's not quite that. It's quite different, because you can be neutral to a situation, but that doesn't mean you have compersion. So anyways, just a differentiation. So,
I think it's harder.
Huh?
Jealousy is easier.
It's easier to be jealous.
Natural. It seems to be. I don't know.
It does. Well, we're wired that way, right? We're wired to believe that we're with one person, and anything outside of that, I mean, unless you've grown up in a very, open environment where maybe your parents were doing this sort of thing, then, you might believe that you're only to be with one person. So when you see someone with someone else, it can feel like jealousy, or this idea that, specialness, I think, is a really interesting thing that's come up. I think I've talked to a few people. It's like, you fixing your tie. You're so crooked there, babes. You're just.
I know. So, Bo, it's interesting that you should mention the part about jealousy becoming easier. And it seems as though that is almost inherent, right? Who hasn't felt jealous in their lifetime? I don't have to set out to try and feel the compersion. Because I am in a more secure place now, the compersion arrived just as jealousy would. I don't work on jealousy. It's just a feeling that comes up. Same thing with the compersion. I didn't set out to feel compersion. It's just, I feel this way because I know that I feel secure and loved in my relationship, that it suddenly came up that I felt good for you guys.
I feel like I've had compersion and it's situational, perhaps, like with helping others, like helping somebody like in a workplace, or helping a child and develop, or something like that. So there's compersion there. But in the situation of our current social contract is where we are as humans, it seems like that you have this normative thing going on where you're supposed to be with one person. So I don't innately actually feel that way. But I mean, it's hard to deal with the fact that is the accepted normative social contract that it's you and me, babe. And that's it.
That's it, babe. That's it.
Nothing else.
Except it's me and him.
No, you and him. You better not be cheating on him, or you're getting divorced, thrown out, going to court, fighting, all that good stuff.
Oh, it's true. It's true. Well, we're going to talk about, like, I think the subtleties of some of these things. So why don't we jump into like the steps you can take if you feel like you may be in a different place of what you want. And, because we had this conversation the other day, and there is subtleties in a lot of these things. Like, you may decide, for example, that you're in an open relationship, but you may want different things within it. So
that's an excellent distinction, because like the inquiry that I had this morning, right? They were in an open relationship. They were ethically non-monogamous, but they also had certain parameters that they had an agreement not to be emotionally entangled or fall in love with each other, right? Because
yes.
One of your favorites, emotional intimacy can be far more threatening than sexual intimacy for a lot of people, right? So they've gone from the idea and willingness and participation of sharing each other physically and sexually to now entertaining the idea of having somebody come in a little bit closer, being polyamorous, having another love in their life. And where will that sit for them? So the question is, number one is, finding out what it is that we're wanting, right? So what is it that I'm wanting, and what is it that my partner or partners are wanting? Can we really speak about it? And I think, again, and I've said this so many times, for me, it's much easier, and I hear it more often when people say what they're wanting physically, sexually, than expressing what they might be wanting or not wanting emotionally or intimately emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing what we're wanting.
Okay, can I show the little diagram?
Let's see. I like your diagrams.
Okay.
Did you make this?
This is actually based on, this is from Jessica Fern's Polysecure, and it just basically shows a range of, I recreated the diagram, but I think I would actually work on this a bit more, because I think there's some things that are missing. Since we've been talking with people, I think there's some subtleties that maybe aren't covered in this, and nor does she say that it covers anything, but this gives you an idea of sort of where the different types of consensual non-monogamy fit within the range of exclusivity, sexual exclusivity, and emotional exclusivity. So there's a range of them. So we were not going to go into this in detail, but it's a good starting place if you're just beginning in consensual non-monogamy, to figure out where it is you might want to be on this spectrum. So you look at monogamy, if you're starting from monogamy, being at the far end of emotional exclusivity and sexual exclusivity, and monoamorous. You know what I mean? So you've got, oh, you're ringing.
Pardon me.
So that's where often people start. And as you move towards the right side, you get to a position of being lower emotional exclusivity and being polyamorous. And then you're either high sexual exclusivity or low sexual exclusivity. So, people often will, so an open relationship, for example, is a common one that people have. So that one is still lower sexual exclusivity, but it's more on the side where perhaps you're more monoamorous. So you may be in love emotionally with somebody, but you're not necessarily, but you're seeing other people, probably more casually. Whereas you move over to the other side where polyamory sits, you're becoming in a situation where you're lower sexual exclusivity. So there are multiple people, but you're also loving more people. So you may have more emotional connections.
Oh, so the key word there is love?
Love or emotional connections.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So where do you think you fit on this, Bo? Putting you on the spot.
Well, I'm much more of a sapiosexual person. So for me, I can't really have any kind of physical relationship with someone unless there is a strong emotional bond. So that doesn't. I think I'm probably falling somewhere by default. So I don't think I can just have I don't think it's possible for me to just have a sexual relationship with someone that's under any circumstances. So I think I'm. If you throw the dart, it kind of takes a curve and has to land over in the upper right side. I don't think.
More on the polyamorous side. You want your partners to be people that you're connected with.
Yeah, I have no interest in someone just for a sexual. I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me. So definitely. How about you?
Well, I'm curious to know though. So you prefer that you have an intellectual, emotional connection with the person, and then the sex may or may not follow, but it's got to be primarily. There's got to be that cerebral connection. How do you feel if your partner or partners are not on that same thing? So what if your partner or partners were to be on a different end of the spectrum? What if they are able to have anonymous or casual sex or friends with benefit style? How would you feel about that?
My brain goes, I'm such a practical person. I don't know. My brain goes right to like safety. Like I wouldn't want to have any kind of. I don't go to jealousy. I go to safety. I guess is where my brain just beep. So that's where it goes.
Does it go beep?
It beeps. Yeah, I got a little synapse goes beep. And so I think of safety. I think of like making smart choices. So I'm just very practical in that sense that I wouldn't want. I wouldn't want to be like I wouldn't want my health compromised because of that. And then I think if I was being really honest, if somebody, if my partner was with someone who was, I don't know, like intellectually brain dead, I would probably question why you would do that. I don't know. So I would probably impose some of my mental models on that, but not. I mean, I don't know. I mean, just mostly safety. That's probably 80% safety.
That's a great thing. Yes, we should all really be safe, because not only for ourselves but for our community, right? And I won't launch into my public service announcements as I usually do, but yes, please always safety and consideration first. But Bo, I'm curious though. So you want to have this emotional connection? It's preferred for you. How would you feel if your partner or partners start to develop their own emotional connection with their partners?
I think it gets back to that the word I was unfamiliar with. What was the word?
Compersion.
The word of the day, compersion. I receive pleasure from others receiving pleasure, whether it's sexual or not, whether it's my partner or not. That I get pleasure from seeing other people experience pleasure. So I think it would just be this. I don't think it's any different whether it's a sexual partner or a friend or somebody I care about. If I see someone I care about experiencing joy, then I experience joy. So.
Yeah. So for you, one thing that you would want in place if your partner wanted something different, for example, I'm just rewording, is that if they were doing things, having connections with other people, you want to make sure they're doing it in a way that's safe and protects both of your sexual health. So for me, that would be like an agreement between you that how you deal with these things. So that's one way of addressing when there's differences.
And also, I think it's a bonus, if you will, if there is the just being in a group of people that provide intellectual stimulation, whether I'm interested in them or not, is also something that is important to me. Because if you're spending time together, if you're spending time together as a group versus you're not spending time together at all, if I'm spending time with said person that my partner's spending time with, it would be I would enjoy somebody who is also intellectually stimulating, whether that is sexual or not.
Like our co-host here?
Yeah. I mean, Andre and I can have really good discussions about anything from horseshoes or hand grenades, and he also gives great hugs, but we're not making out on the side. I mean, so it's just, but it's great. I really, that's important. I mean, just people, the group.
Yeah, and you feel like Andre too.
Yeah, but not yes. I think the basis of all relationships is trust. So there's a trust level, and do you trust somebody, and are they a good person, and do you enjoy their company, and I mean, I guess for me, I'm being a little bit generic here, but it just seems like I kind of removed the sex from it. It's just like, do you enjoy people or not? Under what circumstances?
That's so interesting, Bo, that you said you removed sex from it, because I wonder what type of relationship you and I might have. So it's not uncommon that people will have a physical relationship and not have very much emotional connection to it. And we just call that possibly a hookup or casual sex or one night stand, whatever. There's plenty of names for it, and it happens quite often. But what about you and I having an emotional relationship with little or no sexual contact?
Yeah. I mean, well, I think of like hugging. You're a really good hugger, but we don't have a sexual relationship. So I don't know. I somehow my brain just keeps kicking the sex out. I'm like, people are people. If you enjoy spending time with people, then enjoy spending time with them, as long as you're not hurting someone else's feelings. So that's where my brain goes. I don't think you and I spending time together, under any circumstances. We were talking about maybe going to a spa together or going skiing or something like that.
Right.
Well, I don't, for some reason, but maybe because we're both male, whatever, the threats are down, there's no jealousy, or maybe there's because sex isn't involved. Therefore, nobody gets their feelings hurt, and people are happy for us. Maybe miss us or something, but like that. So I don't know. Somehow, when you take sex out of it, it becomes less of a problem. You add sex, everything gets complicated, and or gets more complicated.
So are you heading towards the idea, Andre, that you guys might have an asexual polyamorous relationship?
Well, that's what I'm wondering. So I think as a device in the past, I might have defaulted to sex in order to gain emotional intimacy, right? So I would use sex as a vehicle. It was my currency. I could offer that as a way of gaining emotional intimacy. But if I'm with somebody who's asexual, if I'm with somebody who is not likely to be a sexual partner, how do I gain that emotional intimacy? So I would like to have you as my boyfriend, Bo. How do I get closer to you? How do I get to, and that's, so if you were somebody that we were going to be sexual with, I could say, well, you know what, we'll see if the emotional part follows, or we'll have sex and forget about the emotional, whatever it is. The sexual currency seems much more viable. It's much more transactional in a sense, but asking or receiving emotional intimacy is not always as easy, especially if sex is not part of the package. Mm-hmm. Will I be enough to stimulate you emotionally? Could we vibe that way? You follow my drift?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I think that I've had some of the best relationships of my life have been that way, where there's a deep intellectual connection, and they've been some of the longest relationships I've had, and they're still the people I fall back on even though if I maybe haven't talked to them in a while. So I don't know, you feel those things, and I've experienced those. Not many, a few, but they've been some of the more important relationships in my life.
Mm-hmm. I wanted to go back to the discussion around kind of being in an open relationship when you have a primary partner. So we both people don't like that term, I know, but the only way to do polyamory is the way that works for you. And as long as everybody's consenting, I think it's cool. Like I would say you and I, Andre, are in a very committed relationship. And, if you pin me down, I'd say probably you are. Pin me down.
Okay, I'll pin you down.
That I'd say you are my primary partner. And we nest a lot of the time. And I think for you and I think we have a good sense of, we're very similar as to what we want, I think. Are we? But then there's some instances where, like we said, people aren't necessarily wanting the same things, or might feel threatened when there's an emotional connection.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Or it could be sexual.
Well, you're afraid to leave then. What if you find somebody and all of a sudden then it's like, wait a minute, I've got an emotional connection, then maybe I can just jump off ship and see you later.
Yeah, so there could be a situation where you're okay with your partner is with somebody else if you don't create an emotional connection, or there might be that condition that they need to know the person and trust the person, which we hear all the time too, right? So your partner might say, you can only be with people that I know and I, approve, as a way of protecting ourselves, from jealousy, right? People will often put in those kinds of parameters.
So is that an assumption, like or a premise that when there's an emotional connection, you're taking a larger risk? Is that assumed? Is that
well, for some people it feels like it can be either way. I think for some people the emotional connection is a bigger risk, because they think, well, if you connect, so say you connect with me emotionally, then you'll want to be with me more, and that will take something away from the other. Like the person might think that takes something away from them. Okay. That they may not be good enough because you've got this emotional connection. It's this idea of specialness. Right. People run into this idea all the time, versus other people were like, the sexual part is more of a concern, right?
Yeah. But hang on, just before you get to the sexual part, the emotional part, I was speaking to a couple the other day, and he was very much relieved that his wife was finally falling in love with somebody else, that it took a lot of the pressure off him, a lot of the expectations, a lot of things, because he is very involved in his career. He loves his wife. They are married. He loves his wife, but he feels as though he's not always able to do some of the little things emotionally that he might want to give her. That he recognizes that there is a bit of an emotional deficit in the relationship. Neither one of them want to blow it all up, but having somebody that he can trust in, a metamor that he loves as well, for him is very relieving. The idea that there is somebody else who is supporting in there. So
metamor, we need to define that.
Yeah,
I think.
metamor.
So a metamor. So in this case, Bo, you would be my metamor. You are Tara's lover, so that becomes my metamor. As Heather would be Tara's metamor.
Yeah, your partner's
partners.
Except that Heather's also my partner, so we're all, so it gets all confused.
Metamor. I want a metamor T-shirt.
You want a metamor
just
T-shirt?
To watch people read it and go, what the hell is that? Just get funny looks. Metamor.
Metamor, monomor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, metamor, monomor. Yeah, that's good.
But I think what happens also is that for some people, if they have any doubt about their own sexual security, then having a sexual partner might be the most threatening thing. They might think emotionally, well, go do what you want to do, have your friends do whatever it is. And sex may be the most threatening part. So it really depends on the individual, right? So it's like on that spectrum between the emotional and the physical.
Oh, you're challenging my mental model, because I've got this one way of looking at it, which is like sex is not really, sex isn't, I'm thinking mostly about emotionally. You're emotionally you're with someone or you're not. So you're challenging me to think about people being more concerned about the emotional connection. But I'm just thinking about people with different habits and different interests and things like you and Heather are more spontaneous versus you got Tara and I are more planners, if you will. So sometimes there's a different there's a refreshing aspect of spending time with you, because we think in similar ways in terms of certain things, and I'm assuming that happens with you and Heather as well. But then again, the differences are also attractive. So it's very attractive for the differences. So whether it's you or Heather,
which is a beautiful thing in the experience of how we are as swingers, being E&M, being polyamorous, that we get to sample all of that and then have it. So it's like having our cake and eating it too, in a sense, right? But the thing is, really for me, it's a question of if we are wanting the same or similar or different things, how will we navigate? How are we going to be able to adjust for that?
Well, I think the thing, did you have an answer, or were you wanting me to answer?
Well, it kind of goes into step 2, but yes, I'd love to hear your answer, Tara.
Well, I think the first thing you have to do is talk to your partner. So you have to make sure you're kind of understanding exactly what it is the other person wants, and being clear on what you might be concerned about. You may say we're in an open relationship, but have very different ideas about what that is.
And being clear and open and honest about it, right? Because sometimes I might say one thing when in fact I might want something else, but am I being really honest with myself and with my partners about it? Am I wanting to kind of minimize it to, in my idea, kind of protect their ego, right? So can I really announce what it is I'm wanting? And I think that honesty is the best policy, because if I announce it, then it gives you the opportunity to decide for yourself if that's something you want to participate or not, right? So it's really a question of coming about and saying the things that you're wanting and not wanting, having to have that open, honest communication.
Yeah. And then you mean the third step we're making this sound super easy, because it's not, because I think that's the hardest part, is communicating exactly what it is you want and being really clear about what you might be afraid of. And we had this whole conversation, I guess it was yesterday. Was that just yesterday morning that Heather was here?
I think so.
About,
yesterday.
Yeah.
She's here, she's gone.
Being concerned about, oh no, it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before. Yeah. Like that emotional connection and finding that could be threatening, and, so then what can we do to sort of, if we want slightly different things, how can we work within that to set agreements, for example, to make make both of you comfortable in how that works. And so for example, one of the things you brought up was safety. So if Heather, for example, wants to have more group relationships or whatever it is, or partners that are more casual, then, you would want to ensure that you guys have a plan in terms of sexual health and getting testing and, how do you protect yourselves and that sort of thing. Right?
Yeah. Is it your experience that these things come kind of slow, like over time people don't realize and they uncover and unpack, or do people tend to know quickly?
I think the thing is usually, I don't know, Andre, you correct me if I'm wrong, is people like jump in and like, oh yeah, we're doing this thing. And yeah, we want an open relationship. We're going to open our relationship. And they kind of like dive in. Yeah. And then something happens that triggers, having to then deal with the situation.
Yeah, my experiences are few and far between. You guys do this for a living. So that's what I've seen that a few times where people are caught off guard and surprised because they don't really know what they're getting themselves into. And then all of a sudden, there's tension or hurt feelings or trust violations. So
yeah, because you think you understand what the other person wants, but you haven't really talked about it, which is why like our program, that's exactly what we do. Like we talk about, you're laughing, but it's
no, exactly, you nailed it. Yeah, it's exactly what we do in our program, right? Because in many ways, you don't know what you don't know. You won't know what's down the road until you get there, unless you have a map. Well, we've gone through all those pitfalls. We've come off the road a couple of times, and now we've made.
Oh no!
How do you improve?
We missed you for a second. Hopefully, everyone else.
Oh, that was when I said the best of all. Like that was it. I'm done now.
Say it again.
Who knows where it was? So I was, alluding to the idea of you would not know what you don't know, right? You don't know what's going to be down the pike until you get there, unless you have a map. So we've gone down that road and we have ended up in the ditch a couple of times and we know some of the bumps in the road and we've laid out a map. We have made a program to help you navigate this successfully so you don't have to end up in the ditch and then have to call for tow truck or whatever.
I love the analogy.
Or your car is so broken down that it's non-repairable, which I think is what happens as well. And you don't want to get into that situation because it can, like, especially this situation where people want different things. It's particularly hard to navigate. Or if something has happened that where, like you said before, Andre, like trust is broken. It's like,
I don't know anything about your program, so I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that you did that. So
yeah, we totally do that. Well, that's part of the program. It's like we start with communication because that's the most important skill. So the first module of our program, we actually talk about and teach people how to like communicate. It's this attunement communication process, which is super amazing and effective. It's hard to do. I've taught it to several couples now, and it's like super successful and in how they're dealing with issues in their relationship. So I'm really excited about that part.
Yeah. And then once you learn how to communicate, the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, you're gonna have a hard time.
Yeah. And then we move into like talking about what it is that you want in your relationship and really breaking that down and coming up with a blueprint for what your relationship you want it to be like, and then setting up agreements and stuff so everybody feels safe and comfortable and supported and that sort of thing. Because that's part of, when you're in the situation where if you want different things is how do you support? I mean, we have to do our internal work as well, but we also have a role to play, I think, in supporting our partners. Like, how is it that they want to be assured or that sort of thing?
Okay, so now at first I thought of like avoiding potholes. Now I'm thinking you guys are like, this is like a driver's ed course for
yeah.
Okay, so it's driver's ed, so you can avoid, you understand how the stop signs work and the yield signs. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay, we've never talked about I've never talked to you. I don't understand so you have a program.
Yeah, it's an 8-module program that takes you through basically all the steps. Okay. And, and we've done this with lots of couples and it's pretty amazing what they come up with. Like the agreements part, I think is the big part too. And because I think it's a step that people make. They kind of make random, somebody's here. Oh, it's the toilet guy.
I better put on my bottoms.
Give us a quick see. Turn the camera. Let's see. Quick. Oh, missed him.
Anyway.
Tune in next time.
That's basically, that's so funny. I forgot that they were coming. So talking about, so that's the important part I think that people miss is the setting agreements part. They might set up rules. They might talk about boundaries. but not necessarily set up agreements that work based on what they value in their relationship rather than like on punitive rules. Like, I think that's the big difference for us and, you know, the people that I've worked with and you've worked with is, you know, setting up agreements to support what you want rather than, you know, punishing you for what you don't want, sort of thing. Yeah. Yeah. So just to recap for people, the three things are to the three things, and he's back with pants on.
Nope, no pants.
No pants.
Pull that one off.
Is to know what you want, talk to your partners about it, and then find ways to set up agreements and things to make it work for you. So the three things.
And it's always figure outable as long as you're talking about it in an open, loving, and honest way.
It is. And, you know, and if people are feeling like stuck in where you are in this, because it can be, you know, hard to sort through because there's a lot of emotions associated with it, then let us know, reach out and talk to us. And you can talk to us about our program, but whatever you do, if you give us a call, we will make sure that you come out with an action plan of next steps. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Driver's ed.
Driver's ed. Driver's ed for don't crash.
Yeah.
That's actually good.
No, but hang on. Whoa. It's more than not crashing. It's driver's ed to get you from where you are driven to paradise to watch the sunset.
My driver's ed teacher was drinking on the job, so I don't know how good he was. But yeah, I hear you. That so you can have a more pleasurable experience or journey, maybe in less of a
exactly.
All right, makes sense.
Yeah, move closer to the pleasure, because I think this is what happens to people is like, you know, part of the program is getting people to the place where they wanted to be when they first decided they were going to be non-monogamous, right? Like they had all this ideas of excitement and joy and fun and pleasure and experiences, and then have like, you know, jealousy, fear,
feelings,
trust, you know, all these things. So it's like, yeah, it's a bit of driver's ed, but then it's like taking you to like the awesome place that you want to be and defining what that is. It's super exciting. Anyway.
Nice.
I can help you with that.
All right.
Well, Andre, it's been a pleasure as always. And thank you, Bo, for joining us.
Yay.
All right.
So happy Monday, and we'll chat again soon.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Ciao.
We'll drop some links in the chat for you.